Welcome back to another edition of Hamtainment, and today we'll be doing a spoiler review of The Last of Us Episode 5. But before we get to that, like and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell for notifications for every time we upload a video here at Hamtainment. But again, if you haven't seen The Last of Us Episode 5, this is a spoiler review, so leave now. Alright, so kind of forgive my low energy today. It's been a long day, but I had to get this review out, and it's kind of late. But we're going to talk about what happened in The Last of Us Episode 5. And man, this is an episode. Like, the show just keeps getting better and better and better, and this episode was peak. Now, we come from, Henry and Sam. They ambushed Joel and Ellie in their sleep. But we're going to go back a little bit back in time, 11 days in fact, because the show starts off with 11 days from Henry and Sam's point of view of what happened, during those weeks before they met Joel and Ellie. So, Kathleen and her resistance overthrow the evil government called Fedra. They teamed up with that doctor we saw in episode 4 who got murdered by Kathleen. We saw where they were hiding out, and then we saw their point of view of what happened to Joel and Ellie when they got ambushed in episode 4. And Henry and Sam decides we're going to team up with those guys, and then now we skip into, where we ended in episode 4 with them pointing the guns. And I love that whole interaction of, like, Henry is basically saying, I'm going to put the gun down and you're not going to hurt us. And then Joel's like, I'm not going to hurt you. He's like, what kind of tone is that, bro? And Ellie's basically telling him, he got an asshole voice. He sounds like that. He sounds like a dick all the time. So I love the interaction. You could clearly, if you play the video games, you know Henry and Sam are not a threat. But if you haven't, then you don't know what's going to happen. But, that part wasn't much tension because I know they're going to work together. But still, I like to see them interact. And I love the change of making Sam deaf. Like, in the game, he's just a normal, young, 8-year-old kid. He has no real illness, no real deficiencies, nothing like that. But I love the touch here for the show to make him deaf, because it just shows how much more Sam needs Henry to take care of him, how much he needs his big brother, in this crazy, messed up world. So I thought it was a fantastic touch. The actor is actually a deaf kid, so I thought that was very great too. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, cinematographer, someone else, was also deaf as well to help influence how you should shoot the scenes with the kid. And I love how they do that for The Last of Us. Like, for example, in episode 3, they got because Bill and Frank were gay characters, they got gay cinematographers, gay editors, because they need that point of view when filming those people, because they need, accurate representation. So I love that they did that here for this episode for Sam, and I love that they made him deaf. It made him so much more like, he's already endearing in the game, but it made him so much more endearing in the show. And he's a kid, and at most he's a deaf kid, so that makes the world even 10 times more harder for him in this messed up apocalyptic world. But I love to see their interactions. Ellie and Sam's interactions were so heartwarming in this episode. This episode is filled with a lot of things, a lot of gloom and doom, a lot of action, but the interactions with Ellie and Sam really warmed my heart throughout this episode. So they teamed up. Henry tells Joel that he saw what he did to those guys when he came into the city, and he explains to him that, hey, I have a plan to get out of here. And Joel's like, your plan kind of sucks. They want to go underneath the tunnels in the city, but Fedra years ago has pushed all the infected down there, which will come back later in this episode. So it was a very bad plan to Joel's thing, but Henry basically told Sam they're going to help us, and that's what they're going to do. And when they went into the tunnel, into that basement where, not basement, the tunnel where they had like the little, I don't know what you call it, hideout, where all the drawings and like the kid stuff were. I thought that was very cool, just for them to have a sit down moment to breathe and talk to the episode. Again, Ellie and Sam playing around, just being children, because we forget that they can't be children in this world. So they finally get a little bit of time to just become children. And of course, Joel and Henry are talking about, why does Kathleen want him so bad? And honestly, I had to watch this episode twice because it was bugging me, because they weren't really explaining why the hell Kathleen wanted Henry so bad. But it's because her brother Michael was the leader of the resistance before she took over, and he was a very kind, great dude. Hell, Henry even said it himself. That was a guy he would follow to the ends of the earth. But his brother had leukemia, and in order to get the medicine that worked for his brother from the ruling government Fedra, he had to sell them something big, which was Kathleen's brother, you know, Michael. And you also see Kathleen talking to Perry as well about the whole scenario, about how Michael even told her to forgive Henry for what he did because he understood. So her brother actually told him before he died for Kathleen to forgive Henry, and she said, "I'm not doing any of that." And that, like, Kathleen's a good villain, but I was like, oh, like, you're being so irrational right now, and I get that love can make you irrational. Hell, technically, what Henry did for Sam, because apparently Mike was a great dude, he was leading the resistance, he was a great man, and he sold him out for love. But I understand that more because not only I get it, that's his brother, but also Sam is 8 years old. Like, come on, you gotta pick the children over the adults, otherwise, why are we fighting? But that's neither here or there. But yeah, I thought that was cool explanations. Me putting the piece. I'm kind of slow when I watch shows, so I understood it the first time. But I really need to understand it the second time after watching it. So, um, and also we learned why Kathleen has the followers she does, because even though her brother was a great man and he was the leader of the resistance, I guess he was too kind for this world, so he didn't really get anything done until he died, and then Kathleen took over, and now Kansas is free. So, so yeah, so I love that whole interaction. He's like, Henry's like, I never hurt anybody. Like, me pointing that unloaded gun at you was the closest I got to being violent. But he did sell out Michael. And he did a bad guy thing. He says, I am the bad guy because I did a bad guy thing. And I think, that's a little black and white in this world, because you gotta do what you gotta do in this world to survive. But I get where he's coming from, because he did do a bad thing technically, and that doesn't make him a bad guy.
And I say, Zangief, you are bad guy. But this does not mean you're bad guy.
But yeah, so after that, they exit out the tunnel, and then now they're in the streets where, just like in the game, this guy is shooting from them in a tower, and so Joel decides, I'm going to sneak around the back and take him out. And I love this scene because even though Joel is no stranger to hurting and killing people, just his face, he looks at the old dude, because the old dude in the tower, and the old dude turns around to me. He's like, okay, just drop the gun, give it to me, like, get out, you're free, just please. He's like, please don't. And the old guy's like, no, I'm gonna try it. And of course, Joel pops him, and then here comes Kathleen's people rolling in to the city, and that whole scene was great. Like, the cars are running over the cars on the road. They're barely escaping. Joel ends up getting a shot off of the front tank that's clearing out the cars, and the car went into a building and caught it on fire. And that whole speech of, like, Kathleen telling Henry, no, it's over for you. And Henry's just like, okay, you could take me. Just leave the kids alone. And he's like, you don't understand why I did that. And she's like, no, I understand why you did that. So she knows that he gave up her brother for the pills for his brother's leukemia, but she doesn't care. She's not having any of that, and she's completely irrational right now, and there's no reasoning with her. So she's about to waste all of them, and then comes the car goes into a sinkhole, and all of the infected come out. And I love this scene because if you watch things like The Walking Dead or any shows that have, like, a bunch of creatures, zombies, aliens, whatever it is, like a bunch of even regular people, a lot of the times it's CG, because one, they can't get that many people in that type of shot, and CG is probably going to be easier in terms of, like, you don't have to hire a bunch of actors to do the scene. But I love this scene because every one of those infected were actual people. Even the bloater, which I couldn't imagine. Like, you would think, okay, fine, the regular stalkers, the infected are regular people. The bloater has to be CG. No, the bloater was a practical effect. That was either a guy or two guys in a suit covered head to toe in blood. The bloater looked so cool. I was like, wow. I was wondering why it looked so good, because that bloater was actually a practical effect. Like, they could actually see that on set. Like, that's a bloater coming at me. So that whole scene was crazy, with the infected coming out, attacking Kathleen's people. that whole action sequence, it was great. You had Joe shooting from the tower to help Henry, Sam, and Ellie escape the infected. And the bloater did the thing in the game where Perry tells Kathleen to run, and the bloater in the as Kathleen's running, the camera is kind of blurred, but the bloater rips his face into just like the video game if you get caught by the bloater, which I thought, oh, this show is so perfect. Like this show's a perfect representation of a video game adaptation, and it looks so good. That whole sequence is great. The little girl in the car chasing after Ellie, so creepy. Oh my god, it was disastrous. And then the end, right before they're gonna escape, after all hell breaks loose, Kathleen has them at gunpoint, and she's like, "It's over." And then she turns around, and one of the small little child infected mauls her to death. And we're like, "You deserve that because you're being completely irrational right now." And honestly, if you listen to reason, this would not be happening. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, so they escape. And again, if you play the video game, you know what happens to Henry and Sam. But this show, they like to alter things for betterment of TV because obviously some things that work in a video game will not work for someone who's watching television because just the way you write the story is different. But for the most part, they're staying true to what happened in the video game. So they get to the hotel. Um, if you haven't played the game, then you don't know that Sam is infected. But if you did, then like me, I'm like, oh, he's I know he's infected. I know he got bit. And the way they played it was so beautiful. Like you could see on Sam's face. The actor who played Sam, he's great. That kid is a great actor. He's upset. Like, and if you haven't played the video games, you're like, why is he upset? You escaped. Everything went pretty much according to plan. You guys are still breathing, and that whole thing with him writing on the little board, telling Ellie what happened, and him showing her his bitten ankle, I thought was so gruesome. And she doesn't do this in the game. I don't remember. No, I don't think she did this in the game. She cuts her hand and says, "My blood is magic." And even though I know their fates, I was like, please, please, the hope in me, because I like the way they make you attach these characters in one episode. I was like, please. I'm sitting there. I'm like, is that how it works? Could she actually just cut her? I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but can she actually just cut her hands and then put it on the wound and everyone's hunky dory? I'm like, I was later sitting there, I'm like, is that how it works? Nah, but I was like, but maybe they've been sticking so close to the video game. But I'm like, maybe this is the one time. They're like, you know what? Maybe we might let Sam live. Spoiler alert: he does not. And in the morning, she's sitting on the bed, and Ellie is wondering, oh, maybe it worked. So she tries to go say, hey, what's up? And he attacks her, and oh my, the scream Ellie makes, oh, it's gut wrenching. And to see that whole sequence played out, like Joel's instinct is to immediately protect Ellie because literally he's getting attached to her. And Henry's just like, no, I'm not. No, you're not hurting my. His instinct for him not to hurt his little brother, for Joel to hurt his little brother, came in. But then he is a good person, so he immediately shoots his little brother because Ellie's about to get hurt by him. And he's the pain on his face is just gut wrenching. He's like, what did I? He just killed the one person that he basically went through all this hell for. He killed the one person that matters to him in this world, and that person is gone, and he killed him. And that's the first time I believe he ever even shot a gun or hurt somebody. The first time he ever did that was to kill his infected brother. That was so gut wrenching to just see his face like, what did I do? And obviously I knew what was coming next, but it hit a lot harder in this show I think than the video game. It was sad. It was very sad in the video game. Don't get me wrong, but it was something about the connection between them two in this show and Sam being deaf. Something about it hit me a lot harder than it did in the game. And just to see Henry take his own life, man, that really sucked. And they had to bury them. And Ellie writes the "I'm sorry" on Sam's notepad and leaves it on the grave. And that's how the episode ends. And man, very good episode. Depressing episode, but very good episode. This show is premium television. I'm literally waiting up. They had it Friday because of the Super Bowl, But every Sunday, I am waiting for that show to come out. The show is so freaking good. The creators of the game, the new writers and the cinematographers, the special effects and the design. Oh, the show is like a chef's kiss. Oh, this episode gets a 10 out of 10. This episode's a perfect episode. A little bit more perfect if Henry and Sam came out of it, but such is the life of The Last of Us. But you let me know what you thought of The Last of Us episode 5. Did you like it? Did you not? Did you play the video game and did you know what was going to happen, or you had no idea what was going to happen and you thought maybe Henry and Sam might make it out? Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this episode and what you rated it. And again, like and subscribe to Hamtainment for all your entertainment needs. Again, I am your boy Hamid Mark, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.